The class action lawsuit and the compliance to it doesn't matter if you don't sell any houses. And that is true. That is like we can spend all of our days and all of our time focusing on how to do it right. But if you don't do any transactions, it doesn't flipping matter. No one's going to sue you. So what I say is fully disclose everything. And we just talk about how you get paid. You have to anyway when you go into any other business. It's just now it's the same for real estate. And let's focus on things and activities that we should do to actually take care of our families, to grow our businesses, to support the people that we care about the most.
Welcome to our webinar here with CINC, Workman, and Fellow. We're going to be talking about the 3 must-have strategies for post-NAR settlement success. We've got Verl Workman from Workman Success Systems. We have Ryan Young from Fellow, and we have Matt Hart, my colleague, over here at CINC. How are you guys doing today?
Fired up, ready to do this.
Doing great.
Let's go.
I think this has really been a topic. I know a lot of Fellows clients, Workman's coaching clients, and CINC. We've been hearing people talk a lot about of how do you cut through the current market noise, right? We're hearing about, certain agents are kind of pausing and trying to see how the dust is going to settle. We're seeing a lot of agents not doing that, who are having a lot of success. And I think that was something, Verl, when you originally approached us on the topic, that we were really excited to kind of discuss what you guys are seeing work. And I know we've been seeing a lot of people on the CINC side double down investing in lead gen, and we know Fellow's been having a lot of success, right, with their clients and investing in technology to convert leads. So, Verl, I think you had kind of recommended some of the strategies there. You want to kind of kick it off for us?
Sure. And thanks for having me, and welcome everybody. Glad
Yeah.
you're here. It's fun to be on with Matt and with Ryan. We spent a little time in Salt Lake City together, getting to know each other and doing some coaches training. And it was really fun to see our coaches be elevated by their knowledge and contribution to helping Workman be better. So I just want you both to know how much I appreciate you being involved in the things that we do together. Our clients are all blessed as a result of having you in our lives. So thank you.
Sure.
We think about all of the time and all of the, like, I would love for just go in the chat and put this. How many hours do you think you've spent thinking about being trained on or changing the way you do business as a result of the class action lawsuit? Like, how many hours do you think you've spent literally thinking about, focusing on, looking at, doing anything with the class action lawsuit? Go in the chat, just kind of give me a number. 5 hours, 10 hours, 50 hours. Cecilia says, nope, none. I'm not spending any time on it. Brokers and owners, brands, boards of realtors, MLSs. Like, it's crazy the number of hours that has been spent on helping agents disclose properly how they're going to get paid. And way too many, Michelle says. I agree with that. And I'm going to give everybody a little bit of shocking truth. Are you ready for some shocking truth from Big V? The class action lawsuit and the compliance to it doesn't matter if you don't sell any houses. And that is true. That is like we can spend all of our days and all of our time focusing on how to do it right. But if you don't do any transactions, it doesn't flipping matter. No one's going to sue you. So what I say is fully disclose everything. And we just talk about how you get paid. You have to anyway when you go into any other business. It's just now it's the same for real estate. And let's focus on things and activities that we should do to actually take care of our families, to grow our businesses, to support the people that we care about the most. One of the things that I've noticed is that there's if we took the same hours that we spent on focusing on the class action lawsuit, we actually prospected for listing. Ryan, what do you think the result of that would be?
You say that again. If we
took the time that we spent focusing on the class action lawsuit and we applied it to prospecting for listings, what do you think the outcome would be?
I mean, you gotta think at least probably 3 to 5 listings per agent. And I would say that's the conservative answer.
Right. So think about that. Now, how would that change your outcome? We look at agents' businesses. And so what's happened today is that the real estate agent has, for the most part, started to mimic the behavior of the consumer. And when there's confusion in the marketplace, people have a tendency to pull back and to pause. And I think the exact opposite is the opportunity for agents today to take market share when everybody else is pausing because they're not certain about how they're going to get paid or what's going to happen or what happens with interest rates, what happens with inflation, or what's going to happen with the election coming up in a couple of weeks, or what's going to happen with interest rates, all these things, a lack of limited inventory. When you wait and you're confused and you don't engage and you don't communicate with your clients, they go somewhere else for solutions, because the life events that occur that cause people to move don't stop happening just because of what's going on in the world. Yeah. Like life events happen, people move. We call that the river of real estate. Are you seeing that, Matt, in your business?
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say, we still have people that are coming in buying every single day, 6, 7, 8 times a day. We have another agent that makes the decision to invest in their business. The other thing that we're seeing, Verl, and I think this is in particular very notable, is that we're seeing the top agents taking more and more market share year after year after year. In fact, we just did a webinar with Alvaro, our CEO, a couple of weeks ago, and one of the slides we were covering was the huge increase that we're seeing in that sort of 80-20 rule start to really play out in the industry, where it was more like 60-40, the top 20% of agents, and we're moving to 80-20 very, very quickly. So we're seeing that continually ratcheting up every year that goes by.
Teams are kind of a funny topic to talk about. All the team is leverage. And what happens is when the transaction gets more complex, when you have to serve more people to earn the same amount of money as you did a year ago, and you have to do more transactions, leverage becomes an important piece of it. And leveraging technology, leveraging systems, and leveraging people are the way to really create and dominate in a skills-based market. So number one, I'm going to just share number one, and Ryan, then I want to get into it and really talk about how to do it. But the first thing that I think everybody needs to know is that we've moved from a fog a mirror market where anybody that can fog a mirror can sell a house. We've moved to an activity-based market into what I call as a skills-based market. And we have to be better. We have to be more educated. We have to know the market. We have to know the buying behaviors. We have to know, we have to be able to communicate and articulate our value to the client. And if we don't move our ability and our education to another level, we're going to be left in the background. How do you feel about the education and the things that we're doing to become better at the business?
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things about me, just from an intro standpoint, is, not only founding Fello, I still operate and own a large team in Cleveland, Ohio. And, we talk about articulating our value proposition every day. What differentiates us as a team, as an individual on a team? And the differentiators have to be deeper than we're responsive, we are insightful, or we're well educated, or we really try hard, or we really care, right? You have to actually provide what I would say is some sort of unique value proposition that truly differentiates you, that gives your client a competitive advantage in this market. And when it comes to some of the transitioning that's happening, just with the settlement, and also just some of the volatility, not only in the market, but in the economy, in the world, et cetera, you need to have so much confidence and be able to articulate that value and that differentiating factor to the prospects, whether on the buy or sell side. And I think it's just doubling down on that. It's constantly educating yourself and being believing deeper and deeper in the value you provide. And one of the things I think is really important, and we say this to our team all the time, and I prefer to talk through the lens of the team leader versus a technology owner, is if you fear having a financial conversation with a prospect, it's most likely because you struggle to articulate your value proposition, right? Or to quantify your value proposition. Anytime our team struggles, whether we get off the phone or we don't get the buyer representation agreement or listing agreement signed, and we dance around that financial conversation, it's because we fear having it. And it's because we fear what we're going to say after it. And so the education and the repetition and the ability to concisely convey to the prospect what differentiates you from others is where you're going to start winning more. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you double down on the skill set so that every time you walk away from an opportunity, you say, I very clearly identified what is my unique value proposition and why someone ultimately should choose to work with me.
So Ryan, give me a little context of your team. How many people on your
Yeah.
team? What kind of volume do you guys do?
Yep. So we have 15 agents. We sell about 500 homes a year. Last year was a down year for us. We sold just over 400. We're normally about 60% listing based. So, this year we're on pace we'll be back in the high fours. We're pacing nicely. Our average agent sells, anywhere from 35 to 40 homes. The reason why we've been able to scale, we do about 175 million in volume. The reason why we've been able to scale at the capacity that we have while being really lean from an agent count standpoint is because we run our business through a consultation-based business. Obviously, being listing-based, we're always going on consultations on listings. But even before the settlement, we always ran buyer consultations just like we did a listing consultation. And what that did was allow our agents to be really efficient. And Verl mentioned leverage and technology, but we also leveraged our time by being really efficient and I would say almost precise in our approach and process on going on these appointments. And that's been really beneficial when, even with market volatility, to have these very stable and precise processes has allowed us to continue to keep growing our business.
Well, what you can control.
Yeah, control what you can. We say control the controllables.
Matt, I don't know about you, but I've been on about 1,000 webinars where the speaker says you got to be really good at talking about how to demonstrate your value. You got to sell your value. And Ryan, you just did it, and I want you to go a step further and talk about how. So how do you, give me an example of when you're sitting down with a buyer or seller, how you talk about your value and what really makes you stand out? Because I agree, you can't just say, well, when you get me, and I'm going to follow up and give you better service. You got to be real specific, right?
Yeah, well, one of the values, Verl, of working with the young team is we have a database of over 50,000 homeowners. And one of the things that we have always seen that really gets our buyers excited is talking to them about some off-market opportunities that they didn't even know were visible on the market. Are you familiar with off-market opportunities, right? And we go through this entire conversation of well, I know the market's tight. You'd agree that it's still a seller's market and homes are selling really quickly in multiples, et cetera. Imagine if you could get into homes that aren't visible to the rest of the buyers, so therefore you didn't have to compete with those buyers and ultimately had a competitive advantage. Is that something you'd want to learn more about, right? And so we leverage a lot of the things in our database, right? And we focus really heavily, and that's kind of the brainchild behind how Fello became as big as it did in such a short period of time, being this database engagement, focusing on finding sellers and engaging with those sellers. On the buy side, I think a lot of people think that the sell side is easier with a unique selling proposition with a guaranteed sale or a cash offer or something like that. And that message now has become almost, I would say, oversaturated, where it's not even a unique selling proposition anymore. It used to be our unique selling proposition. The funny thing is, on the buy side, that off-market play, and we lean into it. It's not a false promise. We legitimately leverage our buyers that make sign loyalty agreements to us, buyer representation agreements. We leverage those buyers into our database to go find sellers for them, which ultimately become the byproduct of that becomes listings. And so if I'm working with Verl and he's looking in an area in Northeast Ohio, and I start reaching out proactively to homeowners in our database, whether they're a fit or not, for whatever reason, it starts opening up conversations, which also creates listing opportunities. So leveraging that unique selling proposition or value proposition on the buy side has always been focused on off-market inventory, something that we have that's almost proprietary that we can bring to you that others can't. And we've leaned really hard into it. And that is, I would say, when it comes to getting buyer representation agreements signed, that is the closer, but that's also where, when we get 5-star reviews and referrals from our buyers, imagine when a buyer is at dinner or at a party telling a story how the young team found their home off market, right? And while all their other friends were in multiples and waiting in line at open houses, and we were searching for everything off market for them, imagine how that story spreads so much quicker, which ends up driving more organic inbound opportunities to us.
And aside from sitting, Verl, at your coach training, that is probably the best tactical thing I have heard of all the conferences that I've been to where everybody's preaching. You got to share your value. You got to be able to explain your value. And now it's a skills-based market. Share your value. That is probably one of the top things that I've heard. So that's awesome, Ryan. Thanks.
Yeah, very well.
You know, what's interesting is, okay, so this is for all everybody that's paying attention and watching on the webinar, is that here's one of the things that I've learned in my lifetime of being in real estate and in business, is that when you find somebody who's doing it better than you should copy them.
Yeah.
And so unless you're selling 400 or 500 houses a year, maybe don't think about why it's not going to work for you, and maybe relook at the way you look at your database. You know, one of the things, and the reason we have partners like Fello and CINC is because they bring different skills, tools, and technology to the marketplace, but more importantly, they bring the intelligence behind it. It's not the tool of having a CRM that makes CINC so valuable. It's that they teach you how to look at the data and the numbers. They teach you how to bring people into the top of your funnel. So you've got 50,000 people in your database that you can market off market properties to.
Yeah.
And then when you, and I, you know, and this isn't about a sales pitch, but like as a third party, I look at the technology that Fello does when they bolt it on, and they start looking at the behavior of the people that are inside of your database, and they start recognizing when they're doing behaviors that are getting ready to move. And a well-coached agent is going to say, now I know what to do with them. We're going to message to them. We're going to serve them, whether they buy or sell with us or not. We're going to serve our market, and we have intelligence behind that. So educating yourself on the tools and the technology, what to say and how to say it to people, and then creating a culture that is consistent with a producing environment. Like every team, every business, and you've probably seen them all, Matt and Ryan, every team, every office has a culture. And that culture is either intentionally created or it's accidentally created. And when you have agents that are selling 25 to 50 houses a year, that's a culture that you don't even have to say it. If you're not producing, you don't fit in. Like you want a culture of productivity.
100%. And that's and that culture becomes contagious, and ultimately it spits out the ones that choose not to participate. And once again, and the reason why I love, you know, what I'm so proud of, you know, the country knows me as Fello, right? Like Fello is scaled very quickly around the country, and they know me as the CEO of Fello. What I'm so proud of is the young team is the dense conversion and productivity per agent. And we're just really proud of that. You know, when you can sit in team meetings and everyone's proud of their numbers and everyone's intentional, that becomes the culture, you know. And if that's not your culture, what I would recommend is, it's really hard to just change culture overnight. What we normally say is focus on a subculture. A small body of people are hired to a subculture, and before you know it, over time, that subculture grows faster than the existing culture and starts to overtake you know, what is the existing culture.
For our coaching clients and for people that we work with, we teach them to have a 10 things to be on my team list. Yeah. And these are the 10 things that, look, if you're going to work with us, we're going to do a daily huddle, and it's daily. It's not 3 days a week. It's not 4 days a week. It's in person. You got to come in dressed for success. We're going to role play and practice scripts and dialogues to get our agreement signed, to overcome objections, to resolve concerns, to move people forward in the process. And then as a team, we're going to prospect for an hour. We're going to do daily success habits. We're going to do a business plan, a strategic plan. We're going to focus on life balance. And so we set the stage as people get hired so they know what the culture is. So there's no surprises. And then the team, they're the ones that actually are the keepers of the culture, not the team leader. And it's really cool when you develop that. And it happens great. I think we ought to answer the question. So when you talk about off-market properties, an off-market property, let's define it. Is it just anybody in your database that has a house that matches the criteria the buyer is looking at?
So for us, off-market property means two things. Off-market property is any homeowner in our database that obviously would meet their criteria that we are going to go proactively reach out to, right? I would call that the top of the funnel, which would be the lower intent stuff, but we leverage that as a way to have conversations with homeowners, right? Which end up leading, like I said, the listings as a byproduct of those conversations. The other off-market opportunity is what I would consider as more middle of funnel, which is, and you know, for anyone that follows me on social media, I did this whole 30-day listing challenge where I listed I set 30 listing appointments in 30 days. And I asked the same question on every single one of the 30 listing appointments I've set. Now, I've been out of production for 4 years, right? So this is me jumping back in, calling out of my database. And I found that every single homeowner that I was talking to, I asked this one question, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, if there was an opportunity to sell your home, even if it was off market and it made financial sense, would you be open to looking at an offer, right? And it was just this very hypothetical, kind of like very non-committal question. And I found that 50% of them would be like, sure, I'd be open to looking at an offer. And then the key is you don't just say, great, when can I come over? You start going into discovery and saying, that's amazing. Where would you go if you accepted the offer? And when would you want to be there? And why is that important? And start actually learning what their true motivation is. So what I found was, as I was asking homeowners this question, and then you'd say, where would you want to go if you sold, if you accepted that offer? You started to learn a lot more. And so what we started to do is categorize or classify how motivated these opportunities really were. If they said, we're actively looking, and if you could bring us the right offer right now, we would sell immediately, then we would probably get an agent into their home. Like, to actually identify what the true market value is and a strategy and what some options could be. If they said, we're casually looking or whatever, great, let me do this. Let me get your, information over to my team. And, we work with hundreds of buyers and we're actively looking for opportunities. Would it be okay if we reached out, if we had a buyer that met the criteria of your home and that their timeline was flexible to meet your flexible timeline as well, right? And so I would classify those as more of that, call it middle of funnel opportunity. We throw it in a spreadsheet to our team. And then the spreadsheet, anytime we're working with buyers, we can immediately check into that spreadsheet to say, these are our middle of funnel opportunities, and then leverage the database to proactively reach out to the top of funnel. There's a whole process, but here's the thing is, and I don't know if people in the group are, on teams or individual agents. We use the acronym TEAM, Together Everyone Achieves More. One of the things that I'm really proud of the young team is we work as a team. If you look at the agent group text all day long, it's, hey, I'm talking to another seller in this area, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, we want to sell for about $250, flexible on timeline. Who do we got? And then someone says, hey, I just signed a buyer representation agreement. They're really looking for a 4-3 in this school district. Who do we have? And it, like, when you have this synergy, within of these 15 agents, and you create almost this network effect or this marketplace, it's how we become really productive. And it kind of snowballs into more and more opportunities. And so that's really how we've approached, scaling our business.
Yeah, and Dean, we're going to send you'll get a copy of the download. You can listen to the webinar again. So Matt, inside of CINC, when I want to match a buyer with people that have properties that are not that are like, I have their property descriptions in there, how easy is it to find those off-market properties using the database?
Yeah, super easy. So we've got a reverse buyer match tool where you can put in basically what we call a pocket listing and then just run a buyer match. So you actually can go in and say, basically, I have these 50 people that are looking for your house today. I can get you in touch with these people if you list with me, right? So that's a fantastic strategy that we've been leveraging.
The days of sending a recipe card or a fridge magnet, I think are going to go away. There'll always be agents who do it because they've always done it. But I'll tell you that the consumer today wants to work with a professional, someone who actually can help them move forward in whatever their need is, whether it's buying or selling a house, or whether it's investing, or whether it's staying where they are and transitioning it into a trust. I mean, they're looking for experts in real estate. And this whole class action lawsuit is changing the landscape of who's going to stay in this business. And 2 or 3 transactions a year, salespeople in real estate, I think, are the highest at risk because they don't do it enough to be good at it. And when you only do it 2 or 3 times a year and you're competing against a Ryan Young team who's doing it 400 times a year, it's really not fair. Like Ryan's team spends more money in marketing than most agents earn in a year. I want you to think about that. So when you articulate your unfair competitive advantage and you're competing against the Ryan Young team, you better understand what's going on in the marketplace. So we train, we teach. Number 1 is you got to educate yourself. Number 2 is you have to improve your skills. And so in order to thrive in a skills-based market, what are the things that you do to improve your skills? So we have buyer agent training, listing agent training, admin training. We do shift modules, and we create threat-based marketing systems that give our agents tools and resources on what to give the consumer when they're reaching out. We have now 20 plus of these shift modules that are all based on threats in the market that make people feel like uneasy, and we change their emotional intelligence from being uncertain to being hopeful or being optimistic. And we do that with emotional intelligence languaging and artificial intelligence writing. And it's really cool to see these things go together. We have, I'll give you an example, and this is just a silly example in a skills-based market. And Ryan, I think we had to talk a little bit about role playing and how you guys do that and how often you do it. But we have a thing called the class action advantage. Now think about that. Like, who has talked about the class action as an advantage? Like, I totally think it's an advantage. And so we've created a story about an agent who always felt like they did the right thing for their consumers. And now all of a sudden they're being perceived on CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and all of the news channels as being, cheating the consumer. And yet they've always done the right thing for their client. They've always done the best. They've given away things. They've gone out and mowed lawns, and they've done the things they've had to do to sell properties. And yet the industry is being portrayed as being this less than ethical group of agents who are just out there for themselves. And the reality is most of the agents are actually good. And so it tells a story, and then it gives the facts around the lawsuit, and then it gives you some step-by-step things you should do with your buyers and sellers who bring up class action lawsuit, or how things are changing, so that you can articulate your value and give them information that prepares them for what's coming next with real estate. And then we give of course, a script for buyers and a script for sellers on how to get your contract signed. When you lay all of that out and you practice it over and over and over again, when it comes up, there's no pause or hesitation. You go right into what you've practiced. And so, I think I'm a movie guy. Like, I love old movies. You remember Braveheart, Ryan? You remember that one with Mel Gibson? Come on.
It's the best.
Right? And I remember Mel Gibson on his horse and his face is painted blue, and he gives this speech going into battle, and there's thousands of people that they're going to be battling against. He's got his little group of scruffy warriors, and he's telling them they're going to go into battle for death, and he gives this speech, and I get goosebumps when I watch the previews of the movie, because I know that's coming. All right. Do you think Mel Gibson actually talks like that in real life?
I don't think so.
No, he is following a script that has been designed to create an emotional response from an audience, and he delivers it with execution and with passion. And that's why we do role plays. That's why we practice scripts and dialogue, so that when we're able to deliver it, we can listen to understand what people are saying instead of trying to formulate a response in our mind. We listen to understand instead of listening to respond, because we know already how we're going to respond to any objection that comes up. Do you guys do role play practice? Tell me a little bit about that with your team.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you mentioned role play bots. I literally on Sunday night role played with ChatGPT for about 20 minutes while I was grilling a steak, and it was like the wildest thing. It was so good, and and I remember you telling me, like, with your guys' products that you have, like, you can tell it to go harder and you can set the difficulty level. Now, mine was a very basic role play, but I'm just starting to, like, kind of dabble around with just all the intelligence out there and how, it can make you so much better. The key to a great role play is it takes two to tango. The person that is the non-agent, the prospect, needs to be just as committed to the role play as the agent. And what I mean by that is, you can't tell the story of you say we, and then when they say, oh, are you the only person involved in the decision-making process? You say, no, it's just me, right? Like,
right.
You have to genuinely get into character and help create a real life scenario. What I have found when it comes to role play, and our team does this a lot, is leverage examples that you've actually been through and identify potentially where you got outscripted or you couldn't overcome an objection, and use that and go back into character, and then do it on another agent within your organization during your role play session and see how they would respond differently, right? And I think what happens is all of a sudden it gives you a new perspective on a way to approach that, but it also gives you a way for you to actually be in character of what you are almost feeling, as that prospect, kind of passing that forward, right? And I've just found that, like, what I'm so excited about, like when you were talking about, some of the role play stuff you're doing with AI, it is very hard to get two people to commit simultaneously to a role play. I feel like the person that's not the prospect, or I'm sorry, the person that is the prospect is just sitting there, like, answering questions, but they're not putting, to your point about Mel Gibson and the level of commitment to not only learning the script, but putting the emotion behind the script. I feel like a lot of times the prospect or the other agent that's actually not the agent that's role playing just kind of goes through the motion. And I think that becomes really detrimental to the, I would say, the increased skill set. And the more we can actually be in character, and the more we can put emotion behind that character and tie it to a real life scenario, you're going to help your team members get a lot better. But you got to, reciprocate with a great role play partner. Should be a great role play partner on both sides.
Okay, so Matt, you and I have been in sales for a long time, right? We've been training sales teams and working with salespeople. We
Sure.
actually have to unlearn the things that we do so naturally.
100%.
Like we are not in like, are you buying or are you lying? Right? We can't say that anymore. You can't say things like, if I can get you the house at the right price, would you buy the house today? Like that kind of closing hard core dialogue does not work. Remember LP Mama, location, price, motivation, working with an agent, qualify for a mortgage, set the appointment. Like LP Mom is not a script we teach. We teach LP Man. We go location, price, set the appointment. I want to meet him. I want to meet him. I want to like, hey, is this where you're looking? When do you want to meet there? I want to meet there face to face so that we can develop a relationship and have a conversation about what it looks like to work together. So we change based on what's going on in the marketplace. How much have you seen your agents and even your own team and the way you serve instead of sell change as a result of what's changed in the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had to sort of modernize what we're doing, right? It's all about being consultative now, right? It's all about finding out what people's needs are and understanding truly what their goals and objectives are, and then just matching what they're doing to your solution. And so that's the thing. And that's exactly what we're seeing, is that technology's become such a big piece of this now, because if you're not leveraging technology to automate some of those high volume, what we would call the low value or low percentage tasks, right? Those things that you have to do to be successful, but they take so much time and so much effort. If you're not doing those things, then you're going to be left behind. And that's one of the things that we see when those, the top 1% of agents continue to steal market share from everybody else. It's because they have leveraged these systems and these technologies to make sure they are maximizing every second of every day. And it's just impossible to do that now with that technology. And that trend line is only growing exponentially. It's not going to slow down. You're not going to be able to do it the way that you used to be able to do it. We're not going to be able to do it the way that we used to do it. And so if you're not adapting, you're dying.
I think when I think about the difference between average and exceptional, it's that the exceptional people do the tasks that the average only talk about. They know they should do it. They've been taught to do it, but they don't do it. I'm curious, and this is a question for everybody that's listening. How many of you believe that if Ryan or myself or Matt got into your database and started making calls, we would find opportunities that you haven't identified yet? Do you think we would find opportunities that you haven't identified yet? Like going to chat. Oh, for sure. Okay. I love that. Okay. So if you really believe, we spend so much money on, doing Zillow Flex or doing, buying leads off of online sources, and we don't take care of the people that are in our database. We don't really work it. And if all you get out of today's webinar is that there is opportunity in there's gold in your database, and all you have to do is put in the process and the system and then spend the time to work it, there's opportunity there. Like everybody, you see the responses, Ryan? Sure, of course, yep, absolutely. Okay, if the answer is absolutely, if we would find that money in your database, why don't you do it? How about let's make today be the time where you make a commitment to do something different and not just talk about it, right? Or Matt, go ahead.
I was going to say, bro, it's not just like 5 years ago, you could leverage the technology and let the technology do most of the work for you. Those people are getting left behind now. You have to do the work and leverage the technology. That is the only way to maximize. That is the only way to maximize. It's what we see the top 5% of teams doing that everyone else doesn't do.
Yeah, I don't know about any of you, and Matt, you can laugh with me. When Ryan was doing dialogue, when he was doing his listing challenge and he's calling people, he's saying, I'm not saying I could or couldn't, but if the opportunity came for you to come up and be able to sell your property in a competitive marketplace and not have to stress about it, would you be open to the offer? And like when he was describing it, I felt warmth. I felt genuine, like he really did want to make a difference. And when I felt that way, I'd be like, yeah, obviously he's not trying to sell me anything, but if it came up, I'd be open to it. That whole delivery of genuine warmth when you're trying to serve someone instead of sell someone is what's going to change the perception of the consumer and the real estate agent. Is we have to decide that we genuinely want to make a difference in their lives, and if we can help them, great, and if we can't, we're going to serve them anyway. And when you message that way, I don't know, that's how I felt, Ryan, and that's practiced. You've done it so many times. It's not it does not sound like a script.
Well, it's I always say, service to sales, right? Like we always start with value, we always start with service. We're here to serve you. And then as the conversation progresses, the sales component comes in when we identify that there's motivation there to actually help someone. We're not trying to sell them on anything. We're trying to help them solve a problem. We're trying to get them into that dream state. We're trying to get them into, really looking into, how would this change their life, right? The thing that I think is really important is when you mention like you feel like this is a warm conversation. One of the reasons why I think it's very easy for me to have these type of conversations in the framework where there is no pressure is because I talk to enough people that it doesn't put pressure on any single individual conversation to be attached financially to the outcome, right? And I think you will start to really look at your business differently when you start looking at it from, call it like the infinite mindset or the long game of saying, I'm not calling people because I need business today. I need a paycheck today or in 30 days from now. I'm calling people with a strategy to start building a massive pipeline of opportunities that is going to create a decade of wealth for me and my family and my team and et cetera, right? And so it allows me to go into these conversations truly from a discovery mindset, being genuinely curious, right? And identifying how we can serve them. When there's so much financial pressure, and you almost have commission breath, as we used to call it, right? The consumer feels it, the prospect feels it, right? And so when they feel like you're trying to sell them something, because you probably are, because you're looking out for your best interest and potentially not theirs, they're going to push away 100 out of 100 times. And so I say it because go in with the mindset. I'm not sure. We look at conversion metrics to ultimately set appointments, get agreements signed, turn those agreements signed to listings on market, to sold properties, to commission, right? But I would say if you look at your database and you start actually having these conversations so consistently and routinely that all of a sudden it's not about, did I set an appointment today? It's, did I have great conversations? Do I have some sort of follow-up plan, right? Do I have some sort of plan of action with this opportunity over a long period of time? The more you do this consistently, day over day, the more you have this massive, abundant pipeline of opportunities or funnel of opportunities, where all of a sudden you're talking to someone 3 months later that you talked to 3 months ago who's finally ready to go. And they are excited to have a conversation with you because you came from a service-based, conversation. You came from a value-based conversation. And we just see winning a lot more of those over a long period of time, more of that infinite mindset.
The long tail, right? You can't afford to burn pipeline, right, by being pushy and by being sales oriented and goal oriented that way. It's got to be service oriented. In fact, one of the things that, and this is, I think, why companies like Workman and Fello, we work great together as partners with CINC, because we're service oriented and service minded first. And you'll even find that my sales reps, part of our scripting is actually to recommend other solutions if at the end of the call we deem that it's not a fit for what, like that CINC isn't a fit for where you are today. That's okay. We've got other solutions that we can recommend to you, because we'd rather you do the right thing at the right time. And then, if you get to that point where CINC is the right fit, right, then you'll be much more apt to come back to us and say, hey, now I need you. Now is where I'm ready to hit the accelerator on growth and start building my database and start, leveraging technology to maximize every single second of my day, right? Then, hey, it's a natural fit, right? But if we pushed and pushed and pushed on the front end and try to push someone into a sale. It's the same thing. It's the same concept.
It's really funny, just really quick, Verl, to that point. I think that's so true. And we do the same thing with Fello where, there's times where we're talking people out of it. We normally say like, look, if listings is not your biggest priority, Fello's probably not the best product for you. But I realize when you just said that, where this all stems from me, a long time ago, I used to work with a lot of buyers, and I almost get like cold sweats thinking about those days in my car, 25,000 miles a year. But I used to talk buyers out of buying homes, right? And the reason why I would do that is I could say, like, I can appreciate that you're really excited about this house. My concern is the value. And I don't want you to call me in 3 to 4 years because you get a job, relocation, et cetera, and we can't sell this home because you overpaid. And if you're comfortable understanding the financial repercussions of where it's currently positioned in the market and it's going into multiples and therefore we're paying an emotional price, right? Then I'm comfortable helping you facilitate this and getting this deal together, right? But what I found is I would walk people through that. When all of a sudden there was a property where I really felt was great value, and I was saying like, listen, you know me, I'm the first one to tell you where I don't see value or where I don't think it's the right fit. This is great value, and here's why. They took my advice time and time again because we established this relationship of trust, not based on selling, but based on truly opening up and looking out for their best interest. And I just found that like it really deepened our relationship with the clients. And it's the same thing on the technology side.
So I feel an elephant in the room. And what I mean by that is that, we're talking about serving and going in for the long game, but there's a lot of people that are on the call that are listening to this that have to eat this month, and they don't have enough, they're not making enough money in the real estate business for the next 60 days. And while it's easy to say, and I just want to recognize it, it's easy to say, I don't have to close this deal because I'm good and I have enough of the pipeline to not worry about it because of the things I did last year and the next year and the next year. And so I like to say, and I don't know if this resonates with anybody, but I like to say that we lead with revenue. And so when we look at your business, I want to know, what are the revenue buckets where you're leaving money on the table today, and how do we fill them? How do we fill the revenue bucket so you're making some money today? Like, what are we doing? And let's start with that. We have an assessment called Find My Fit. And I want to know where you are and what resources and tools you have. And then I want to see, okay, based on what I know and where you are, then I can coach you to the gap and say, this is where the money is. So let's fill those buckets first. There's simple things that everybody can do right now that will pay them in the next 30 days, right? And they don't have to spend any money. They don't have to spend it with Workman or with Fello or with CINC, but they have to recognize that it's an activity-based market. This is a contact sport. Wish marketing is not a thing. It's not a thing. We can't wish that people would give us business. You have to go out and get it. The whole concept of The Secret, where if you put it out in the universe, somebody gives it to you, is foreign to me. I don't get it. I grew up in poverty, and if I needed something, I had to go hunt it down and kill it. Like, I had to go get it, and then I could eat it. I couldn't just hope that somebody would give it to me because I put it in the universe. I believe that only action determines our value in the marketplace. And if we want to increase our value, we have to increase our actions. And by leveraging systems, tools, and technology, and what I call the wisdom of the crowd, we can then do that together. So number one is we have to be better educated. We have to understand what it means to be a professional in the market. Number two was hone our skills, practice scripts and dialogues, create a culture of productivity, and make sure that we're communicating in a serve regardless of opportunity market. We're serving our clients. And then number three, let's talk about the third thing, and that is the leveraging of technology so that we can do one-to-many, because I got to communicate with a lot of people in my database. And if you don't think you have a good database, I'm just going to call bullcrap. Pull up your phone and let's start calling the A's. Like, let's start with the A's. And instead of selling something, say, how you doing? How's your family? What's news? Everybody okay? Kind of crazy world we're living in. And when you ask how they're doing, they're going to say, how you doing? You say, I'm blessed. I'm helping a lot of people take advantage of the opportunities in the marketplace right now. And I'm helping a lot of people find opportunities they didn't think could even identify. Why do you ask? Like, have great dialogue and just start going through the B's and C's and the D's. But when you have great tech, we can put that on steroids so people start self-identifying. So let's talk a little bit about how do we use technology to go one-to-many and increase the number of opportunities and decrease the number of touches it takes to create them.
Yeah, and real quick, something I want to acknowledge. I agree with you 100%. When I say I lead generate without pressure, what I'm really suggesting is the more consistently you do it, the more intentional you do it, or the more flexibility you have on the people you're talking to, because you will naturally create more bottom of funnel or ready to go opportunities now as well. But you don't have to put pressure on yourself or on the prospect to do so. And I think that's a really good point is, so, okay, I'm willing to make the commitment. I'm, making the commitment to educate myself. I've invested in my skill set and now I'm ready to take action, right? One of the things that I think is really important from a leveraging technology standpoint, and this is once again where Fello really got it right, was becoming really intentional with who you're having conversations with. If you are in a place with, like Verl said, you don't have a big database and you're just rolling through your phone and you're calling the A's, this is the first place we should start. This is, call it 101 prospecting, right? Now, let's say you get to a point where you start having some success, you start driving some revenue, you want to start investing into great platforms like CINC, like Fello. Now we can start becoming a little bit more surgical and intentional with who we're reaching out to. And so with what we do on the Young team and what Fello clients do is we start focusing on what we would consider is the most likely to sell prospects in our database. And so we use this really rich data. And so one of the things that we found is if you're talking to prospect or homeowners that have a 3% mortgage, it's less likely that they are going to sell because you probably can't replace that 3% mortgage if you're going to get another mortgage. So let's find homeowners in our database that don't have a mortgage or have over a 6% mortgage. Let's find homeowners in our database that have been in their home for over 10 years or over 20 years that have seen a significant amount of appreciation. And so what we do is we create these really tight segments based on this really big data, and then layer the consumer behavior on top of it to get this very, very, I would say, strong list of opportunities, bottom of funnel list of opportunities that we know if we need opportunities now, this is where we should start. And I think whatever that segmentation looks like, whether it's based on engagement, it's on the buy side, it's on the sell side, you have to get to a place once you get past just calling through your phone and calling the A's, which is a spray and pray approach, which is better than no approach, right? But once you start driving revenue and you start making those investments into becoming a little bit more strategic and intentional, you have to start segmenting your database and becoming really intentional with who you're reaching out to.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say too, one of the things that we've heard a lot of over the last, couple of months, especially since the NAR settlement, agent commissions are going to get squeezed. So to dispel some myths, right? Like the average float on agent commissions on an annual basis is about 5 to 10 basis points, right? And anybody on the call, can you guess what agent commissions have gone to since April, since the announcement of the settlement? Take a wild guess. They've dropped 0.6, so 0.06, 6 basis points. They've gone from about 2.61 down to 2.55% on average, right? That's well within the normal float that we see on an average basis. So commissions have not been squeezed yet, right? Like that we're not seeing that. So the other thing that we're seeing is that people are saying, oh, well, buyer leads, right? Buyer leads, seller leads. This is what I think, we're starting to see a shift to, right? Because Ryan, you make a great point. You've got to have a database to go after those people, right? And so online lead generation is still going to be the most efficient and economical way to scale your database, right? I'm just talking about getting, whether it's buyers or sellers, right? It's not buyer leads or seller leads anymore, right? It's real estate leads, and they can be monetized a number of different ways, right? It's about building a database because today's buyers or today's buyers are really masquerading, they're sellers masquerading as buyers is, what we're seeing about 60% of the time, right? People coming in with a home to buy actually do have a home to sell. So it's still the most efficient way to grow and scale your database, right? So that to me is one of the ways it starts. And then, like you said, Ryan, you've got to have the systems and technology in place to help you identify who's in market, right? Whether that's buyers or sellers, you've got to have technology that's able to help you mine through that database, because you can't do it on a one-to-one contact basis.
So a couple of things. So when we're coaching clients that are using technology and tools, the first thing is they need to learn what features and what things that are available to them. So if someone's using CINC, we're going to use the workflows, we're going to use the automated responses, we're going to categorize leads as A, Bs, and Cs. There's a methodology to how to work a database to get the highest return out of it. A lot of people spent money on technology and then they say the tech doesn't work. And it's not that the tech doesn't work. It's that they don't understand how to harness the power of the technology to get the maximum result. One of the most powerful things that Fello does, and this is one of the reasons that Ryan and I started having a conversation, is because one of our coaches and one of our coaching clients said, I would get a daily notice of every time somebody in my database would list with somebody else. And it was like a little dagger letting me know that someone's doing a better job working my database than me. And I decided that I was going to stop that. And so I turned to Fello on and started actually working it and following the systems and doing things necessary. So those listings, when they happened, came, and at least I had a shot at them instead of having them show up as being listed with somebody else. Those are strategies that sometimes we're in our own business so much that we don't see what to do and what not to do. And I don't know any high performers in sports or in business that don't have somebody looking at their life or their business from a different perspective. We call that coaching. And so what a coach is not someone that's there to motivate you. Like if I have to motivate you, I don't need you. I want people who are already motivated, that want to grow and take their business to the next stratosphere. They just don't know what they don't know. And so they're looking for someone who can see their business from a different perspective, plug in all the pieces and make them work together so they can maximize all the opportunities. That's what a great coach does, whether it's Workman or somebody else. Like find somebody who you trust, who resonates with your values, that understands tools, technology, skills, messaging, and marketing, and they can help you build your team or build your company or build your brokerage or help you with your individual business, create leverage using the tools and technology. So my big thing as I listen to all of this is to summarize the 3 things. I do 8. So it summarizes 3 things. I'm just going to go through them one more time. Then we'll share some QR codes with everybody. Number 1 is the class action lawsuit doesn't matter if you're not selling any houses. So do the activities that generate results. Focus on the things that make money-making activities. If we were to change the amount of time you spend doing non-dollar productive activities and replace 50% of that time with dollar productive activities, you'll make more money, period. Educate yourself on what's available, what the market is doing. When someone brings up real estate, have an intelligent conversation with them about it. Don't talk about what other people aren't doing. Don't talk about what other people said. What you want to talk about is you want to talk about what you know about the marketplace and how it impacts their decision-making process. Be an expert. Number 2 was learn how to be a skills-based agent. What that means is practice scripts and dialogues, go through and get training and coaching. Do the things that hone your skills. Get better at negotiation. Get better at reading body language. Use emotional intelligence and artificial intelligence to elevate your skills. And number 3 is apply the technology that's available to you today to do one-to-many. So put your database and your systems and your relationships on steroids by incorporating and utilizing technology, and not just any technology. There's a reason you're on this webinar listening to these experts. And so go deep into their solutions. Look at what CINC does at the different levels. One of the things, Matt, I really appreciate you saying this, is that our salespeople know that if we're not a good fit, they have alternative solutions. That's a consultative sell. So schedule the consult. Look at what they do. And with Workman, we have a Find My Fit assessment. If you'll use the QR code here, you can download the Class Action Advantage system. And when you do the Find My Fit, we'll actually give you our buyer and seller action scripts for the dealing with a class action lawsuit. So go in and use the Find Your Fit, go to that resource and do it. And then with Fello, Fello is like a level of business that most agents will never hear about. And you should consider yourself lucky that you're on a call with Ryan today and he shared with you, because this is being talked about amongst our highest performing teams in the world. And if you're already in those networking groups, you're hearing about Fello. But if you're not, it's kind of like, you ever want to be in the room when the big deals happen? Well, Fello is the company in the room making a lot of those big deals happen.
I love it. Yeah, they're one of the things that is super important for us is if listings is your biggest priority, like I kind of said earlier, if listings is your biggest priority, I would highly, highly recommend look at Fello, and not necessarily because it's something you want to sign up for or not, but it's more that you can start getting awareness and visibility to just the opportunities that are happening in your database and the amount of homeowners, and to coming up with a strategy. I saw there's a couple people here in Canada. Fello is not currently in Canada, yet we still have conversations with our beloved friends up north all the time to just say, while we're not there yet, these are still principles that you can apply to your business to generate more listings. And we are here to coach you and navigate you and give you the resources. Once again, value-based, servant-led. And I think it's just really important that we've always found that listings to us is the path to profitability. It's the path to scale. And that's why you've seen Fello grow as fast as we have. I work with so many of the top teams. So definitely take a tour of that. We have some great promo pricing with Workman and CINC. And then also, just really quick, this is kind of a self promo. If you can throw up that other QR code. I mentioned that I was doing those 30-day listing where I set 30 listing appointments in 30 days. I posted a lot of the videos, the live calls, the scripting on social. Give me a follow. I want to continue to educate you on what I'm hearing that's working with seller lead generation, the biggest seller objections we're hearing. So give me a follow. I'm going to really committed to pouring value into this audience of best ways to overcome objections and set appointments and start building these listing-based businesses.
Thanks, Ryan. Matt, give us a great call to action.
Yeah, I can't see the QR codes, but Richard, I'm assuming the QR codes are up. I would just recommend, as Verl said, just schedule a consult with us, right? Sit down with a product expert. Let us, sort of talk through what your needs are. And if you're a good fit, then we'll absolutely find a way to help you supercharge your business, right? And if not, then we'll point you in the right direction. But at the end of the day, it's all about helping agents be successful and maximizing what it is that they're doing with every second of their day. So yeah, give us a look, and we'll point you in the right direction.
This has been really informative. It's been fun. You guys have fun doing this? I sure did. Thank you for including me.
I love this stuff. Two brilliant guys I get to spend some time with.
Well, on behalf of Workman Success and CINC and Fello, thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. If you already have CINC, then set up a Find My Fit with Workman and go check out Fello and see how it works together with CINC. And I don't think we have any other questions, so let's wrap it up. Have a great rest of the year. Remember, this is the time of year where we're doing business plans. So deep business planning right now. Nothing you do today is going to pay you back for 30 to 60 days. So let's make sure we're planning for a great 2025. It's going to be an unbelievably great year.
Love it. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you, Verl.